A fantastic day for racing here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. The early part of July, heading into the mid part of July. A good look at the backside of the Corkscrew. Now, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca has been around since 1957, and we want to get you a nice closer look at the track right now as we look at Tony Elias on pole position. He's got to make his way around Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca as fast as possible in this event coming up. Let's take a look at the track. Jason, it is 2.24 miles and a lot of fun.
Very historic, as you said, Greg. Built in 1957. You're going to go up over the hill, turn one. You can't see it by our track map. But a lot of elevation there. Bike's going to get light as we head down into turn two. One of our prime passing spots here. Out of turn two, you're going to go to the two big flat corners on the track, turns 3 and turns 4. It's funny, those turns give people a lot of trouble. Come out of turn 4, you're going to go up a gear, back a gear for turn 5, and then the elevation starts. We climb up the hill to turn 6. Then we get a lot of elevation as we go to the top. A lot of wind blowing guys around the top between 6 and 7. 7 and 8, of course, the famous Corkscrew down to turn 9, rainy corner. After turn 9, we're still rolling down this big hill into turn 10 that has a lot of banking to it, does turn 10, into our last passing spot, turn 11. A lot of races have been decided there already this weekend. We're probably going to see more with the 3 more that BN Sports is going to cover. So, you know, Laguna has just stood the test of time, and we can still bring a lot of these more modern bikes back and race here. It's great.
That was an overhead look at the racetrack, but earlier on in the weekend, Jason had an opportunity to stand on the race surface and give us more details about Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
When you talk about Laguna Seca, everyone talks about the Corkscrew. However, when you look at Laguna Seca and what turn 1 has to offer, this is a turn that takes the biggest and most commitment that you can have, and it's a turn that is the most important when you start setting up a motorcycle. The Corkscrew, it's slow and quirky, but it's famous. This turn here, you better have all your wits about you. Why? Well, when you're coming underneath that bridge back there, on a 600, your plan is to keep the bike wide open all the way over the top of the hill. On a Superbike, however, you got to look at things a little bit differently. When I come up under that bridge, I'm looking for something off in the distance that I can steer the bike towards, because when I come under that bridge, I can't see where it is I'm going. I try to find something off in the distance, and in this particular situation for me, there's a third telephone pole that I have always looked at. It's never moved when I've come up over the top of this hill. As we get to the top, the bike's going to get light. So on a Superbike, we're just going to roll out of the throttle just ever so slightly just to get the bike grounded again. As we continue up over the top, we're going to get back in the throttle and head on down to turn 2. But where this track, for me, is the most important is making sure that when I get out for first practice in the morning, my bike is going to be set up well enough to where when I'm on the throttle coming out of turn 11, I can continue that pace all the way up over to turn 2 without having to worry about what the bike's doing underneath me when it gets light here in what I think is one of the most important corners, turn 1 of the Laguna. So you've done all the hard work. Now you've gone through turn 6 at the bottom of the hill, and you've headed up this gigantic elevation change all the way to the most famous spot in motorsports in America, the Corkscrew. The Corkscrew is far more intimidating to stand on and look at than it is to actually ride it. After you ride it a few times, it becomes fairly easy. Why? Because it's a slow corner. Slow corners generally are going to be pretty easy. The problem is you can't see when you come in here because it's so blind. We're going to come up the hill in 4th gear. We're going to do 2 back shifts to 2nd. Goal is to just get inside this little black patch. We're going to get as close to this white line as we can. The reason for that, we want to try to straighten our bikes up as much as we can going up over the top of the hill. We don't want to flop it from left straight to right. You're going to flop it from the left, kind of straighten the bike up right to make sure that the bike's going in the direction it needs to go when we come up over the hill. A little too much gas back there is going to send us over to the right. We saw Valentino Rossi make a very famous pass on Casey Stoner years ago as he came up over the top of the hill. But from this point here, our only objective as riders is we want to clean this section up so that when we turn our bike to the right, we're going to do 1 quick short shift up to 3rd gear, going down to rainy curve, down into turn 10, and then turn 11, where we're going to see a lot of last chance passes, which is normal here at Laguna Seca.
Well, Jason, I think at this point, I'm going to put this headset down and I'm going to go back to racing, because now I've finally figured out Laguna. Where were you when I was racing 25, 30 years ago?
Well, you better not listen to me. I stunk around this place. I think I always put too much pressure on myself to do well here, but there's definitely things about this place that have their idiosyncrasies. It's so easy to make mistakes at this track. I probably wasn't ever patient enough in the places I needed to be patient in. And,
all right. Well, why don't we take a look at the onboard lap of someone who actually goes really well around here?
Yeah, but I think we're on board here with Josh Hayes. You're going to come over. See that 3rd pole on the left? That's the one I was talking about. You're going to come down. Going to backshift it a few gears, back to second gear here. You're going to touch an apex, let the bike swing out ever so slightly. You're on 1,000, you're squaring this bike up. You can hear him already on the gas before he even gets to that apex. Over the paint on the right, into turn 3. Very flat, hard corners in second gear. It's going to accelerate. You're going to hear a quick upshift. There it is, up to third. This is a big roll speed corner, is turn 4. You got to make sure to hit your marks on your entry there. Now you're going to go up another gear, up to fourth gear, down this quick straightaway, up 2 gears actually for Josh. Back to third into turn number 5. Uphill, little tricky turn. We saw DeRosa fall there yesterday in World Superbike. You're going to run it out over the paint. Now, you cannot see the entry to turn 6. Very, very tricky corner. Get in there a little bit too fast, and we saw what happened yesterday with Chaz. Got in there a little bit too quick and fell over. Now, that does not look as steep as it actually is. It's very steep, and you can see, you cannot understand how steep this part of the track is. You're going to fall way down and through the corkscrew, up a gear, a little quick short shoot. There's a big black patch right there that I shoot for. I'm going to find the apex, pick up the throttle before I even get to that, use about 3/4 track on my exit down into turn 10. Very banked. Important we get a good drive out of here, just in case there's anybody behind us, because this last passing spot, we got to park the bike, get it turned. You can see, just missed the apex a little bit there. We're going to run over that stripe there. We're going to be looking for that big Motul sign coming at us, and that's a lap around Laguna Seca.
59 career wins for Josh Hayes, 5 of them here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. That man right there knows how to get it done around this road course. We're going to take a break here on BN Sports. We're going to see what Josh Hayes has for the rest of the field when this race action gets started. Welcome to the MotoAmerica Championship here from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. It is the Honda Superbike Showdown in California. We're under red flag conditions for Superbike and Superstock 1000 race number 1 of the day, of the weekend, of course. And we are getting that all sorted out as we get word now that pit lane should be open relatively soon. And they should be going out on the racetrack at the top of the hour here, which is just less than a minute away. But while we have this opportunity, Jason, let's talk about a couple things. One, I want to talk about the championship that we have in the class, but before we do that, I want to talk about this Honda Superbike Showdown of California. And one of the things MotoAmerica has put together for the Superbike Superstock 1000 class is the Showdown. And what it is, it started, of course, at Road America, then we went to Barber, and now we're here for the 3rd round. The rider in this class with the most amount of points at the end of today is going to win a brand new Honda Civic sedan.
For those 3 rounds, yeah.
For those 3 rounds,
Yep.
and it's scored
Yep.
the same way. So right now, Cameron Beaubier leads the way with 82 points, but Roger Hayden is only 4 back at 78, tied with his teammate Tony Elias. Unfortunately, Josh Hayes is way back in 50 with 58 points. Josh Herron is 5th with 22. So it looks like right now, we're going to be keeping an eye on that championship battle is the Honda Superbike Showdown, because Beaubier only leads by 4. I'm just saying, Nicky Hayden's here from Honda. He's going to be handing the key out after the second MotoAmerica Superbike Superstock 1000 race is done. It'd be kind of cool to get a key handed to you
From Nicky, yeah?
from Nicky to Roger.
Yeah, it would be, it'd be very funny, yeah.
You owe me, probably owes him something from,
Probably
10
something
years
like
ago.
that. You're exactly right. No, that's a cool thing, and it's a neat little extra perk for these guys for those 3 rounds. Just try to accumulate those points, and
they get to pick the color and the type of Honda Civic sedan that they get. So a really nice little perk put together by MotoAmerica and, of course, American Honda. So the Honda Superbike Showdown going on right in front of your eyes. They'll be scored just the same way. And that's that. But the championship for the actual number 1 plate for MotoAmerica, it's Cameron Beaubier by 25 points over Josh Hayes. Only 1 point back from Hayes is Tony, and another point back is Roger. So it's 25, it's an entire race, but anything could happen. If disaster strikes for the number 1 plate, then this championship is all tied up. It's anyone's game.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it enough, to be fair, and I think that what you got to look at is it's when you got 4 riders, it just boils down to who's going to just take it and win it. That's what it kind of comes to. And what I saw out of Cameron at Utah, him doing what he did, winning that race, I thought, well, here we go. He's won the first race, and then we heard some things about Tony in the first race, and then he came back in the second race, and he did what he did. You got to think that that Tony himself, I think, is the guy that he's not worried about anything. He just wants to go win races.
Yep.
I think when you look at Josh Hayes, Josh had a kind of a frustrating weekend this weekend. We talked about it yesterday. He had a mount break on the rear of that bike in qualifying. He did really good to put himself 5th, Greg, because I talked to him this morning, and we speculated yesterday. I said, how do we know that bike's exactly the same as his A bike? And it wasn't. It was a completely different bike. It had different wheelbase, had different gearing. So for him to go out and put it in 5th on the grid, he even thought that maybe he missed a checkered flag. So he went on another lap, and he said for the first 3 corners, he couldn't remember if there was a checkered flag or not a checkered flag. So he pulled up, and he did have another lap going, but he was afraid because of where the checker flag is here. It's a different spot than it's been in the past, and so he didn't get the most out of his qualifying tires. Josh is going to be there also, but this guy here on your screen comes with a lot of experience. He's raced with guys. He's raced with Valentino Rossi a bunch. He's raced against a lot of very, very talented people. So when you look at it, I hope that somebody doesn't lose this championship. I hope somebody takes it by the neck and goes out and wins this championship. And I think to have 4 riders battling this hard with 4 to go is tremendous for our series. And it's got the world watching, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Now what you're looking at is MotoAmerica's quick start procedure. So after a red flag, when time is an issue, what they do is they go out and do a sighting lap. They grid them really quickly, and then they send them out for now the warm-up lap. Part of the reason why this race has actually been reduced to 20 laps. So fuel, obviously a concern, as well as tire wear. So now we get an extra couple laps on this. So once we get back around to the starting grid, they're going to line up like they normally have, and then the lights are going to go on and off, and we're going to go racing. Points on the right-hand side of your screen. What Jason and I were talking about, Beaubier with an entire race win, entire race really advantage, because in MotoAmerica, it's 25 points for a win, 20 for second, 16 for third, 13 for fourth, 11 for fifth, and then we go 1 point each on back to 15th spot.
What's interesting about what we're seeing now too, Greg, is the laps that, you know, now we're doing 20-lap race. These tires, when they start, they're actually going to be, when they start from the grid, they're going to be starting their 7th lap on these tires.
Yeah.
So you saw Danny Eslick going up into the corkscrew just now with his hand up cruising. You know, tires obviously are going to have plenty of heat in them. It cannot be any more perfect of a day right now as far as weather and things go. Looking out our window, the wind's very, very slight, but 7 laps on these tires already.
At Utah, Cameron Beaubier moved out of a tie with Nicky Hayden for 6th on the all-time AMA Superbike win list with 18 career victories. Of course, number 2 on that list is Josh Hayes behind the famed Matt Mladen. If Beaubier can do the double here today, he'll tie for 5th all-time with 3-time AMA Superbike champ Fred Merkel. So a bit of history looming for the number 1 plate, something we care more about than I'm sure Cameron Beaubier at this point, because it shields down, making sure that the safety car is coming back into frame, indicating now the Stuart Marshall say, it's time to go racing. That red light will go on, and can Tony Elias do it one more time, get a great launch, and go out front? Here we go.
Another good start by Tony Elias, and he's got his teammate that's going to push Cameron Beaubier all the way up over the top of the hill. Josh Hayes also, it's been pretty routine this year. We haven't seen Cameron get the best starts. Josh is right up behind Raj as they head into turn 2. Cameron's trying to take the long way around.
Wow.
Josh is trying to push Raj out of the way, and you can see that's going to cost him a position, I think. Cameron's going to go back underneath him, but Tony's done it again with a great start, but now he's got his teammate behind him. Those 2 Yamahas are going to start getting frantic trying to get by.
So Roger Hayden on the 95, Yoshimura Suzuki put himself in 2nd spot, so a better start for him as Cameron Beaubier now side by side with Josh Hayes as Hayes tried to drive around the outside of him. And look who's looming back there in 5th spot. That is Claudio Corti. Looks like Claudio on that Aprilia Superstock 1000 machine. So a great start from Claudio. Claudio, of course, having a couple of wins already in the Superstock 1000 class earlier this year.
Yep, and I think that this is going to be a great track for him and that Aprilia. He's got the Yamahas of Danny Eslick and Josh Herron right behind him as you see the field go through the corkscrew. Probably one of the coolest shots that we have at the beginning of these races, watching all the riders come down through. We saw Jake Lewis, we saw Steve Rapp, but look at Elias out front right now, Greg. He's trying to already separate himself from these guys. Now, let's look and see the difference between Tony's bike and Raj's bike as far as their acceleration out of here. Be pretty easy to tell if they're any different because we saw the Yamahas just now on our opening lap of the first part of this really closed up on Tony, and it looks like, you know, maybe Tony got out of there bad that lap that we saw because they didn't really pull that much on Raj as they went up over the turn 1 for the first time.
Now, Tony, not knowing exactly what these riders behind him are going to run, I mean, I'm sure he would know his teammate's rear tire, the super soft tire or not. That Tony's mindset was he wants to run that super soft tire. He wants to put as much of a gap between himself and these guys as possible, if possible. So when it comes to those closing stages of the race, especially with 5 laps to go, when the performance drops off, it drops off for Tony. It doesn't necessarily drop off for everyone. It depends on how their bike's set up. It depends on your riding style. But he wanted to try to create enough of a gap where he's going to be losing time to anyone. He would at least have a cushion and try to win this race. So it looks like he's trying to execute his plan right now,
Raj
Jason,
is going
but
with
there's
him.
no way.
Yeah,
there's no
Raj
way.
is going with him for sure. You know, Greg, when we were talking about that, you know, when you see Raj come out of turn 3 just now, he really closed a lot on the exit of the turn. And so look, Josh in there a little bit deep at the top of the corkscrew. Those are the mistakes that we've been seeing made. You know, we're on a full fuel load still at this point. So, you know, it's so easy to make those little braking errors at the top. What you don't want to do is create big gaps because it's hard to close the time down here at Laguna Seca, trying to make those time back up. But Raj just kind of closed back up, and you see Tony's front end tucked there just a little bit. Good eye, Greg, because just getting in there a little bit too deep. Turn 11 is just one of those corners that kind of sucks you in so quickly. Josh Herron and Danny Eslick going at each other here a little bit in the Superstock class.
What?
Matt Skultz is right behind him.
Josh Herron and Danny Eslick. A storied history of racing between these two, usually on smaller displacement motorcycles. Have come to terms with each other.
Yep.
They're friends, they're friendly for sure. But boy, years ago, they used to bang bars and put on a spectacle for fans. And these two riders love racing each other. Danny always says that when Josh Herron's in front of him, he can dig a little bit deeper. But Herron and his Wheels in Motion Me Motorsports team have been struggling so far this weekend. And he's saying on social media last night, they think they've got everything figured out. And so far, so good.
When you say struggling, I think they had a little setup. I mean, we're talking minor stuff for Josh, because once he's comfortable, he rips in. But then he just had some really bad luck. As we look here, that's Anthony Kaczynski. That's on the exit of turn 2. So his bike's right in the middle. Somebody will come and help him out there. It doesn't look like there's any fluids or anything on the track. There's probably a high side on the exit of turn 2. So it's great to see him up and around. But here we go, back at the front. Raj just closed that gap. Look at the mid-corner speed there that Raj has over Elias. And when you go through a place like turn 9 and into turn 10, Elias looked a little bit better than Raj there, but coming down Rainey, Raj definitely had the measure of him. And Josh Hayes has got himself back on the back of Cameron Beaubier now. He's closed that little gap up after his little gap up in the corkscrew.
So Tony Elias, I'm sure with a quick look at the screen, he'll see that his teammates all over the back of him with the number 1 plate Beaubier hanging right there as well. So Tony Elias.
Do you see how hard he goes into that corner?
Yep.
It's the same thing we saw in turn 1 at Utah. If you remember us making mention of that there. Turn 1 at Utah, he kind of diagonalizes his line in there, but what it allows him to do is run in there so much harder. That time he cleaned up turn 3 a little bit, because that's where Raj closed on him a lot the last lap. So sometimes at the beginning of these races as a commentator, we're looking for little idiosyncrasies that we can find between each rider and what makes one rider better than another. Tony just cleaned up turn 3 a little bit there. So the lap before, I think he just got on the gas a little bit too soon and it pushed him wide, because you can see Raj's bike looks really stable right now, and it's good to see Raj. Raj, I think, is the guy that's got to take the biggest chances. He's been consistent all year. He's done exactly what he said he was going to do. He's got to take some chances now and throw a little caution to the wind that, hey, I'm in this thing too, and I need to put some people between me and Cameron also.
Also want you to keep in mind that in a conversation between the two on the back of this group right here, Cameron Beaubier and Josh Hayes, in a friendly conversation, Josh just happened to mention to Cameron that he's got to win the last 4 races of the season, and Cam, you should just take second and that championship. But Josh Hayes, well, he knows he's got to take into account the Yoshimura Suzuki team as Roger Hayden now tries to go up the inside of Tony Elias. He does. Oh, and Beaubier has got to check up as Elias had to roll off the throttle for a second, but he's still able to get around. So what Tony was doing was actually squaring the corner up when he saw Roger go in there, and it looks like Cam Beaubier got hung out to dry.
I just said Raj has to take chances. Good for Raj. Raj, that's what he's got to do. He's got to shake this race up a little bit. Hey, there's no time to be friends anymore. Teammate is a teammate. You're both trying to win a championship. The thing I think about the most is that guy in 3rd place, the crafty veteran Josh Hayes. He sat there, he's waiting, he sees that mistake. That's, thank you very much, I'll take that spot. Now he's seen Raj take a fire at Tony. If he comes by this next lap and you see Raj just gets in there a little bit too deep, and Cam was just closing speed on Tony was just a little bit too much, and Raj goes back for him again as they go into turn 5.
So Raj Hayden, really a wide line right there, tightens it back up, but Tony Elias trying to fight back. So Roger Hayden He is taking shots, and look at the acceleration there as Josh Hayes continues to be in the back. Check out his rear wheel. Josh Hayes is already bucking himself out of the saddle. Probably the one rider in this group that uses the least amount of traction control. It's all in his right wrist, but Josh Hayes trying desperately to hang with these two Suzukis.
And he is desperate to get by. This is a different Roger Hayden than we've seen in the past. Raj has got his gloves on, and that's a good sign for him. And you see Josh is setting up Elias now himself. Let's see if he pulls down tight and tries to go by. He certainly is.
So Hayes underneath. He's going to outbrake Tony Elias. But can Tony square it up again and use the horsepower of that GSXR 1000? There he goes. So it's playing into his strategy. Tony Elias, a dirt tracker in his own right. He loves dirt tracking. So he knows how to square corners up his left-handers, and he's going to attack his teammate.
And that, look what it does. Look what it does. It's going to open the door for Josh Hayes, and this is what's going to happen. I've been waiting for this, Greg, because 4 guys fighting for the championship. They've got to do this to each other. Somebody has got to take it and go with it. So far, Josh Hayes has been sitting there watching a little bit of it. He will park Tony Elias in turn 11. He doesn't need to make the pass completely. He's got a good drive down to turn 5.
So here we go. Roger Hayden, the most surprised I've ever seen him, as Hayes now attacks earlier than we thought. So Josh Hayes is going to take that spot over, but Tony goes up the inside with less corner speed. And how about the drag race up the hill? It's going to be Josh Hayes who takes over. So that's 3 race leaders so far in this race, and Cam Beaubier now sitting in a podium position.
Now we got to watch the lap times. These guys up in front are going no faster than the Superstock guys behind them. Why? Because they're playing with each other. The thing that you got to remember is every one of these guys now have taken shots. Josh has been struggling this weekend, but he is the veteran of the class. He wants to win the championship again, despite all the rumors and things that people are talking about. Now we'll see what the lap times are, Greg. We're going to see if this race settles down a little bit. Rogers got back on the back of Cameron. Cameron's got on the back of Tony again. We got that lead quartet back where we wanted them.
After Tony Elias went around Roger Hayden up the inside, I have never seen Roger stand it up so long, like big surprise. And when he turned the bike back in at the bottom of 2, he was out in the dirty stuff, and the rear end came around on him, so he was able to save it. So Roger Hayden, hopefully this isn't all that Roger has right now, as Tony Elias is trying to find a way around Josh Hayes. You can see the rear end of that Monster Energy Graves Yamaha protesting under throttle acceleration. Hayes doesn't mind that at all. He doesn't mind a motorcycle that moves around. What he does mind is not leading, especially at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. This can be a pretty tight road course at speed. It looks wide on TV, but Jason, I think when you're on the road course itself, it can be pretty tight, and you want to have a clear vision of the track ahead. This
is a track that you want to be leading at. We're going to get a look here as they come down through the corkscrew. A great shot of our lead 4 guys as they come down through the corkscrew. Cameron Beaubier just getting a little bit loose. Nope, he looks good. All these guys. That's a great shot by our BN crew coming down. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you can see Raj gets into the corkscrew a little deep. All these 4 guys are together. 24.9 for Josh on that last lap, which was about 0.6 quicker. Now, just looking at things, you can see Josh doing an unreal job coming down the hill. But when the slinky effect that they have, Josh seems really good from like the exit of 5 all the way down to like turn 9, turn 10. And then it looks like Tony can kind of reel him back in, entering turn 2 where we saw him make that pass. Look at the gap that they have now, and we'll see if that closes up as they come down into turn 2 and 3.
Roger Hayden now losing touch with this group. Really surprised, but look at Tony Elias close the gap on Hayes. We've talked about it. Tony's talked about it. He loves the brakes. He feels it's a strong point of his riding, and he just showed it to us right there.
And he carries a lot of corner speed into turn 3. If you watch Tony's exit the next time, he's getting close to the outside curbing, and he straight lines it. Josh has it leaned over a little bit longer on the edge, and that's why the bike's moving around as we go to the Superstock battle.
Claudio Corti on that HSBK racing machine. They had an engineer from Aprilia from Italy fly over with the electronics, working with Claudio on this motorcycle. It's been a big improvement. The team has felt that they have had a great weekend so far, and Claudio is leading the way. He's on the 71 from number 2. Josh Aaron on the wheels, in motion, Mean Motorsports Yamaha right behind him. TOBC Yamaha R1's Danny Eslick. So right now, Jason, it looks like Josh Aaron's doing a great job. Eslick just kind of going back and forth.
And Matthew Schultz is just right behind those guys on the Westby Racing R1. So we got this lead quartet up here on Superbikes, and we got that lead quartet just behind them in Superstock. So I'm looking right now, Raj is just dropping off just a little bit off the back. And then, you know, you got to think that just shake him up a little bit. Was it a big enough mistake where he had to stand the bike upright where he's just lost that gap? He's going to need these 3 guys to get a little bit racy with each other as they're now consistently in the high 24s. That said, Raj runs the fastest lap of the 4 of them. But this is where Tony's quick, and you can see by the time they get down into the Corkscrew turn 9 area, Josh is able to pull back. Now, see how Josh keeps his bike a little bit more over to the left there. That wasn't as pronounced as the lap before. Tony runs it a little bit straighter, carries a lot of corner speed, mid-corner speed through 3. But from this point, from the exit of 4, all the way to like Rainy Corner, Josh seems to have the measure of these guys, and it'll be hard for them to do anything with him if he keeps pulling a little gap like that in braking areas like turn 5. But see how Tony closes up on the brakes a little bit.
12 laps to go in this Superbike Superstock 1000 race. Race number 1 here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, round 8 of the MotoAmerica Championship. It is Josh Hayes leading from Tony Elias, Cameron Beaubier in 3rd, Roger Hayden in 4th, Claudio Corti, Josh Herrin, Danny Eslick, Matthew Skoltz, Bobby Fong in 9th, and Sheridan Marias in 10th spot.
And here we go. We've already had a change for the lead in Superstock, Greg. Josh Herrin, Danny Eslick's right up the back.
Look at Claudio.
Yeah,
and Josh doesn't roll out of it.
You know what? That's clean racing. Look at Danny to the inside of him. How's MotoAmerica racing right now? You got 4 guys almost 4 wide. As Danny Eslick is going around the outside of him.
And he just lost the rear and the front for a moment. Danny Eslick, look at the motorcycle control. All the while, Matthew Skoltz on that Yamalu Westby Racing Yamaha 720 hanging back there watching this action as he tried to make a move around Eslick. So after all of that ruckus, it becomes Herrin leading the way in Superstock 1000 over Corti.
And you see who's right behind them? Bobby Fong is coming into our shot also. You're going to see him right in the back of your screen there. That's Bobby Fong on the Kawasaki. So all of a sudden now, this race here, you don't even want to go away from it. You got 4 guys, and these guys are hating on each other, which is good for us on TV.
3 Yamahas, an Aprilia, and a Kawasaki just off in the distance. This is for the championship battle in Superstock 1000, of course, led by Josh Herrin, who has 7 wins so far in the season. Quite a run, 42 points, 6 in a row.
Yeah.
42 back to Bobby Fong in this championship. So even though Josh Herrin wants to lead and win this race and continue to put his stamp on this class, the bigger thing for his title hopes, of course, is keeping Bobby Fong between himself and the rest of these riders.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is that if he can leave here with more than a 50-point lead, Greg, it's over.
It's over.
So when you start looking at the championship points and things like that, Josh Herrin, this is a big, important day for him if he can just keep piling on the points on these guys, and all of them know it. As you see Corti drawing a straight line right down into Rainy Corner there. All 4 of these guys need to get in front of Herrin if their championship hopes are to stay alive. So all of them want a little piece of that. They all know that they're there, and if they can put some space between Herrin and themselves, then they're still all in the championship hunt. With the exception, I think, of Skoltz, who came into our series a little bit long. He just wants to win races. But both Corti and Eslick, and I know Bobby Fong, are all still in there with a chance.
Matthew Skoltz 9th in that points championship, of course, coming in late, filling in for Sheridan Marias out there. There goes Eslick up the inside, so he forces the issue on Claudio Corti. So Corti relegated back to another position. It was very close, but clean racing. And now these 5 riders all have a shot at the front, as when Josh Herrin went to the front, he didn't start to check out. He didn't show that speed. But like I said, when Danny Eslick sees Herrin, it's just a little bit of extra motivation.
And Bobby Fong is at the party now. So, and you can see just Jake Lewis is just not that far back as Claudio Corti goes back underneath Danny, repays that favor. Can Danny get a good drive? Coming up into turn 6 is the hardest place on the track to pass, other than maybe going up over the crest of turn 1. So now we're headed up the hill. Corti's got a great drive out of there. Not quite good enough to go back up the inside of Josh at the top of the Corkscrew, but we saw him take a shot at him after they come down to this right. Let's see if he does anything going down into Rainy Curve.
Quicksilver, latest motorsports Kawasaki. That's that white and green motorcycle, number 50. Bobby Fong right there, as we continue to see Danny Eslick use a wider swooping line, has a little bit more speed than Claudio, but Claudio able to hold on to the position. The one thing that's been impressive is the battle going on behind Herrin, and Herrin hasn't been able to check out. Usually we see when those battles happen that Herrin would be able to eke his way out, but right now that gap continues to be just about the same, as Josh Herrin now with just a couple tenths of a second visually over Claudio Corti. And there's Danny Eslick on the 69 as Skoltz likes to go a little sideways down into turn 2.
And I'll tell you, Greg, with 9 to go, as you see Danny goes back underneath Corti again. With 9 laps to go, I'm looking at...
There goes Skoltz, sorry,
wow,
Jay.
no worries.
So Skoltz now, so Claudio Corti in the 2 corners, goes from 2nd in this battle to 4th in this battle.
And you watch Bobby Fong here. He knows the best time to strike on somebody is when they've already been struck on. So he's going to try it in turn 5 right now to go underneath Corti. As you can see him doing that.
Oh, there goes Fong. Nice move. Can he hold it, though, as they run up the hill to turn 6?
And they're going to be side by side. This gets really sketchy as Corti's able to get back. But look at Jake Lewis. Jake Lewis hasn't been at one of the front of these races in a long time, and he's going 3/10 to 4/10 quicker than these guys because they're getting in each other's way a little bit. We could have 6 guys going for a race win here in only a matter of, say, 2 or 3 laps.
Oh, this is Superstock 1000 racing. This is what it's all about, as M4 Suzuki's Jake Lewis trying to latch onto the back of this battle as Josh Hayes continues to lead at the front here. 0.565 seconds, and now look at Cameron Beaubier. He's all over the back of Tony Elias. Roger Hayden has been able to claw his way onto the tailpipe of Cam Beaubier, so it keeps going back and forth. Now, this is the sign of veteran racers. Instead of them pushing the issue and constantly racing each other up, it's like, look, let's get this tire to the end of the race. If we can stay close, then we're going to let it sort itself out the last 3 laps.
Yeah, well, Josh is just so good on the second half of this lap, it's going to be hard for anybody to do anything with him. His big thing is if it goes into the last lap, he's got to be far enough ahead of Tony to where Tony won't just let the brakes off and try to go by him. You can see the gap that Tony puts on Cameron as they break into turn 5 or as they break into turn 2. The problem that these guys are going to have is if Tony's close enough to him, he's going to do something with him. As again, a great shot of Josh Hayes coming down through the corkscrew. But consistently, every lap, even though it looks as close as it does on TV, for the last 4 laps, every time these guys come across the line, Josh has a half-second lead at the stripe. So you see how close Tony was when they went up into the corkscrew. Now Josh is going to start to pull that gap away, coming down to turn 9 through turn 10. Tony's just not close enough to do anything with him. There's a mistake. Big mistake by Tony. Cameron's going to try to go underneath him going into 11.
Yeah, but he got out on the rumble strips and that motorcycle went sideways. So another small miscue by Cam Beaubier. He had the opportunity there, but that's going to extend the gap now to Josh Hayes from Tony Elias. Not really. It closed down to 0.3 of a second. So that all sorted itself out. We might have had a little mistake. Oh,
look at the gap.
Oh,
Raj.
no! Roger Hayden loses the front end of the motorcycle down in turn 2, and he's going to try to pick that motorcycle up.
This is what I was hoping I wasn't going to see. I was hoping I wasn't going to see anybody do that in this lead group. Raj did such a good job to get on the back of these guys. You can see he's in there just a little bit deep, and it just takes so little to pull that front brake lever on a little bit too much. Raj already trying to run before he's even got up there. This is devastating. This is the kind of thing that hurts you, obviously, in a championship with this few races to go. I feel really, really bad for Raj right now.
And there's points combined in this. So even though you have Superbike, Superstock 1000 racing together, with Superstock 1000 has their own championship, not the case in Superbike. It's whatever you finish on the racetrack. So if Roger Hayden's able to get that bike restarted, he's going to have the fast group of Superstock riders ahead of him, as we can tell you that Matthew Schultz is now leading that Superstock 1000 battle, back adrift about 18 seconds. So Roger Hayden reports are he's up and back on track right now.
And now we've got some traffic to start thinking about. You can see, look how much Tony closes up on braking there. Now, Josh, look at the drive he gets out of there. Incredible drive. Josh has to get to these back markers first. Not only does he have to get to the back markers first, he's going to hope that he gets them in a spot that could hold everybody else up. So he's going to go by the 120. Look at this. This is what I'm talking about, though.
He's deep, though. He is deep into that corner. Is Tony going to try to reel it back down? He does, but too much throttle.
But he's going to take chances like that. That's what you can expect from Tony Elias. He reminds me a lot of Kenan Safoglu in World Supersport. When Kenan looks like he's out of the race, he always finds a way to fight his way back and take chances at the end. That's what this guy does right here. He's not afraid to just let off the brakes and let somebody go by him. Cameron's got to run on him right now, but Tony's just too good on the brakes entering the corners. All these things right now with 6 to go are test runs. He knows he's got to keep Cameron Beaubier behind him, and if he can somehow get by Josh and put him between them, that's what he wants to do, Greg.
Number 1 is Cameron Beaubier leading the championship by 25 points. There's Roger Hayden coming across the stripe right there. So nearly a half a track behind, and Roger in 16th spot. We only pay back to 15th, so 0 points for Roger right now. He's got to go chase down Braden Elliott, who's in 15th, Corey Alexander's in 14th spot, Hayden Gillum in 13th. So he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to score some points, and we don't know if there's any damage on that Yoshimura GSX-R 1000. It looks like it's in pretty decent shape right now, although the handlebar might have taken a little bit of a hit.
The hardest thing psychologically as a rider is when you've done that. Roger's beating himself up right now under the helmet, probably a little bit bummed, doesn't really know what he does. Tony's pretty close this time. Let's see if he does anything again in turn 2 to Josh. He's just going to go for it, Greg.
So here goes Tony Elias once again. He's trying the inside. Hayes
now
knows
he's way
it's coming.
too wide.
Way wide. He's going to relegate another position. So that was the danger of having Cameron Beaubier right behind you, is that Tony Elias now trying to fight for the lead has got to get at least one more position if he wants another shot at it. So Cam Beaubier now has a clean shot at his teammate Josh Hayes.
It's a very exhausting way to ride a motorcycle when you have to continuously try to make up time on the brakes. Tony realizes that he can't get close enough to these guys in some of the places where we roll through corners, but he's not afraid to take chances. But see, now he's created a gap. He's going to have to go back, put some 2 or 3 solid laps together so that he can take another shot at these guys now. With 5 to go, he's got to try to get back on the back of Cameron here. So but like I said, look at it. He's making up tons of time on the brake. Let's see if he ran wide at all as they come down through the corkscrew. You can see he ran wide a little bit at the top of the hill. It's a very exhausting way to ride a motorcycle. But the guy, I just love the heart of Tony Elias. He just never gives up, ever.
And you know, this is the World Superbike weekend, World Superbike paddock. I was sitting underneath the Yoshimir canopy with Tony talking this morning. As teams were coming in, they walked right by. And of course, Tony's been in the World Superbike paddock, MotoGP paddock. He's Spanish, he speaks Spanish, obviously. And a lot of people were talking to him as they went by and telling him, hey, good luck this weekend, Tony. Have a good time, go race. Is now the 455 machine getting a little bit in the way. Sam.
He did all right.
Oh, is
Sam,
Tony Elias up and out of the saddle?
Yep, Sam did good there. He must have heard those guys coming. Good for Sam. And now these guys are going to let this thing battle. Now, you can see the difference in body position now, or body posture in Cameron Beaubier. For all those laps, he was worried because he was sitting behind Tony Elias. He couldn't do anything with him. But now he's trying to do something with his teammate here, Josh. Josh also a tremendous braker. It's going to take a big commitment from Cameron. And you got to remember something. Cameron has a 25-point lead, and that's all he's got on his teammate. If he can somehow win this race, that just gives you that little bit extra cushion, knowing that you got a full race under your belt.
But the phone call. You can't ignore the phone call earlier on
earlier this week.
When Josh Hayes and Cameron were on the phone. They are good friends, and Hayes mentioned to him, I'm going to win every race from here on out. If you don't take second and you want to win, I am going to throw a shot at you. I know Cameron knows. It's not that Cameron's going to collapse to Josh Hayes, you know, to his words or anything, but Cameron also knows what's at stake here. 25 points. If Cameron thinks for a second that this might be a risky move to take over the lead, might it be best in his benefit to just say, I'll take the 20 points instead of the 25?
I think normally, yes. But there's a World Superbike paddock here watching.
True.
And they want to see a young Cameron Beaubier beat a guy who's won the championship 4 times already, who many think in that paddock, well, Josh is a little bit too old. I don't believe any of that myself. This guy's an incredible racer, an incredible champion. And if you're going to beat Josh, I don't care who you are, you're going to have to take it away from him. And the fact that Josh made that call, yeah, we have a laugh about it. I know Josh all too well. If Cameron takes the lead with 3 to go and gives Josh any kind of chance to take that lead back, Josh is going to have a go at him without question. The thing that Cameron's got to remember is that he's got to be paying attention to his board too. If that board continues to say +0, that can also determine his plan of what he's going to do with Josh, because he knows there's going to be a yellow helmet making his way through at some point, letting off the brakes and just taking a chance.
And here comes Cameron Beaubier. He gets an inside line, tries to get a drive up the hill, but it looks like Josh Hayes is going to lead into the corkscrew, although we did early on in this race see Josh Hayes make a mistake or two. So that is something that's looming in Hayes' mind, as well as now Tony Elias is back on the back of these guys. Look at Beaubier. He's trying to use that drive down the hill, and it looks like, oh, for a moment, it looks like he was going to go up the inside.
The problem is that he's either got to take a shot and get it to work, and it looks like he's trying again at a turn 11. Tony Elias now.
Had to park it.
Yeah,
had to park it.
The Yamahas just accelerate too well, and Josh just made a big mistake out of the last corner, Greg. That could be the difference.
So here we go. Cam Beaubier side by side takes over the lead as they head down in turn number 2. Is Hayes going to try to go back up the inside? Nope. Tony Elias is. Whoa, he's got to go around 2 riders at one time. Tony Elias now from 3rd into 2nd, kind of 3rd, 2nd. They are fighting back and forth, and it looks like Tony is going to move to 2nd spot. So now Josh Hayes has got to reassess his plan as he goes side by side with Tony. Whoa, right back into 2nd.
But watch this. Tony's going to let out the brakes when they get down to turn 5. If that little drive didn't hurt him, that drive hurt him. You saw the bike get a little out of shape. But What's it doing for Cam? Cam just looks like a genius right now. Josh made a mistake out of turn 11. Cameron's got his head down. He's letting those two guys race it out. Josh is going to do everything he can to pull it back. But we saw at Utah, Tony threw a little wrench into Josh's whole plans. It was either Utah or Barber, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. And Josh had a plan, but Tony just kind of got by Josh and screwed up Josh's plan. Same thing could happen right now because Cameron's getting away, but Josh knows that Tony's going to take a shot at it.
Time is running out because we are less than a lap and a half away from taking the white flag, which indicates 1 lap to go. So it looks like Cameron Beaubier, it worked to his favor. He had nothing to do with it. He made the pass he needed to make, but then it was the 24 bike on the Suzuki who was trying to move, the desperation move to throw it into turn number 2 and park the rest as Hayes now takes the white flag.
It's going to happen again.
It's going to happen one more time. Here comes Tony Elias up the inside. Whoa! And side by side, a little touches. Hayes was trying to block that inside line, but Hayes is out in the dirty stuff, and it looks like it's going to be over for the number 4.
Yep, and I'll tell you right now, this guy right here doesn't care. He is letting these guys know, I'm trying to win the championship the best I can my first year out here in America, Greg, and I don't know if he's going to be close enough, but if there's some way that he can pull out a magical lap from right here, right now, up into the Corkscrew to get close enough to Cameron as they go into turn 11, he's going to take a shot. He's just going to let go of that brake handle and see what happens.
There is not enough real estate on this racetrack for Tony Elias to get Cameron Beaubier. Some may say, but not Tony Elias. He is trying everything he can to close the gap on Cameron Beaubier. He wants a shot at him in turn 11. Here they go into the Corkscrew. Tony has got to make it cleanly, as does Cam Beaubier. It looks like a good clean line for Cam. The number 1 plate now into Rainy Curve, and Tony has closed that gap. Can Cameron Beaubier be mistake-free through turn number 10? Here we go, back to the right-hand corner. He's got to get on the gas. We've seen that Yamaha spin up. A little bit of movement from the rear end. A clean turn 11. Beaubier parking it on the inside, trying to protect that line. And here they come. Acceleration onto the front straightaway. And it looks like Cameron Beaubier on the Monster Energy Graves Yamaha will take race number 1 here at Laguna Seca.
What a classy bit of work by Cameron. As you look at our super stock battle, this thing has gone crazy on us as we see Danny Essick leading Josh Herron and Claudio Corti as they come down into turn 10. Will Corti take a shot? He has to take a shot at Josh Herron as they come into the last corner just for championship purposes alone.
Wow, so look at this, a rider down in that corner, no passing allowed, as now Claudio Corti and Josh Herron goes, oh, and they touch. So Claudio Corti and Josh Herron touch as they come across the line. Boy, that's a really interesting situation as that rider looked like it went down right there at that moment. I don't know if the white flag came out, but more importantly, Jason, the win goes to Danny Essick.
And he gets Corti in between him. Now, the thing is, we're going to go back. We're going to look at Raj here, Greg. I'm going to make the assumption that crash happened so directly in front of him that yellow flag may not have even been out. Corti may have been making that pass prior anyway. So I got to think that happened so quickly. And we're going to see Raj come across the line here. And 16th place, he wasn't able to make up any time on the guys in front of him. So pretty devastating for Raj. Yeah, just such a drag. The guy's just done so incredible this year. But what can you say about this guy? Our defending champion, he did everything perfect. That last lap, coming from turn 10 to turn 11, you saw him protect that line on the inside. If anybody was going to go by him, he was going to have to happen on the outside. And can't say enough for Cameron Beaubier. Class act off the track and just pure class on it.
I'd like to be a fly on the wall listening to these guys when they get together, Beaubier and Josh Hayes, as it's Beaubier, Tony Elias, Josh Hayes, 1, 2, 3. And then it's Danny Essick, 4th overall, winning the Superstock 1000, the TOBC Racing motorcycle. I can't wait to hear how that race went, because those guys.
I want to hear from all those guys,
and,
all 5 of them.
All 5 of them. So Jason, take a look for me. What is the margin here, the gap? So 30 seconds, it was 29.7 seconds back, and it looks like to Sheridan Marias and Jake Lewis.
They all came
They
to
were
the
all
party.
within 2 seconds of each other. So it goes Danny Essick there. Let's take a look at the race results. We'll talk about it right now. So Beaubier with 0.3 of a second over Tony Elias. What a great, Tony Elias did a great job to close that gap, but not quite enough. Then Hayes. Then we have Essick, Corti, Herron, Matthew Skoltz, Bobby Fong, and Sheridan Marias. You can see that gap, 29.7 to 31.9.
They all came across the line together pretty much.
Pretty much.
You know? So,
and on the next page of results, we see Jake Lewis was right there as
there
well.
With him. Yep, Kyle Wyman 11th, Hayden Gillum 12th. Great job for Corey Alexander getting some points on that Ducati. Still a lot of teething. They're getting through it though. Steve Rapp 14th, Braden Elliott, the Australian Supersport champion that we've talked about, 15th, gets the last point, of course. We can't say anything without talking about Raj there in 16th. Pretty devastating for him today.
Babushka out of the race, Brandon Cretu, Daytona Anderson, Anthony Kosinski we saw get his motorcycle up and off as well. And Darren Jameson on back through the field. And it looks like David Anthony out. We didn't get to see that. No Jake Gagne.
Do we really got to do this 2 more times today? We got World Superbike, and we got, I mean, you can see Raj coming into the pits, and that picture right there doesn't tell the story because that's the clean side, and the other side's a little bit dirtier, but I feel bummed for Raj.
So the checkered flag waves, and now we're heading to Victory Lane where we're getting some interviews with some riders. And that means, since we got flag-to-flag coverage, we'll take you to a quick break and come back with the story of the race from these guys. Welcome back, everyone. Like JP43 said before we went off the commercial break, this is only race 1. We got a couple more to go, including a second MotoAmerica Superbike race. But this one is in the books, and our winner is with Christy.
Cameron, that's the kind of racing we all come to see. Congratulations on an awesome win.
Thank you. That was a crazy race. Man, I was struggling there at the beginning. They stretched like half a second on me, and I was just trying to crawl back. Made a little mistake, went back again, and had to crawl back again. But yeah, it seems like my bike was just working really good with used tires compared to those guys at the end. And, man, it was just a big battle all the way to the finish. Just gotta give it up to my Monster Energy Graves Yamaha crew. Just having a fun weekend here. Got all my friends and family here, and yeah, Bell Alpine Stars for keeping me safe, and gonna go get ready for the next one.
Backing on some more championship points, Cameron Bobier.
Congratulations to Cam. That extends his points lead, of course. And yeah, that race was quite exciting for Cam. Talked about it, maybe a full fuel load issue, maybe, you know, the bike not working right. But either way, when it got towards the end of the race where it mattered the most, he put the hammer down and was able to do those lap times that saw him win that race.
You know, it's been a long time since we've seen a rider like Tony Elias that just goes and takes shots. And, you know, that's what he does. But it changes the whole complexion of the race. It changes how these guys have to think because they know that he's going to take a shot. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what Tony has to say, Christy.
Tony, that was one heck of a race that we saw out there. Tell us about your race.
Well, it has been very hard race. One of the hardest of the season. The first start, I tried to go, but everybody follows me. And then I understood it's gonna be a group race. But when I was there with, especially with Yamaha guys, we miss a little bit of traction. Then in braking areas come back, in every traction areas they go a little bit, every lap like this. And finally it was difficult. I try my best, I try to stay behind. I don't let them take some gap, but every time I wanted to pass, I was not near. Then braking like animal, go inside too fast, going out, they pass me again 2, 3, 4 times. Okay, it's like this, I have to accept. Finally, I could pass Josh, but I tried in the last lap, try to catch Cameron, but Cameron take some sense and it was impossible. I'm not happy because I wanted to win. We will try to modify something in a rear shock for the second race, and I will try to win. It's what I want. Second position is not enough, and Cameron is continuing taking some advantage points, and that's what I don't have. That's why I'm not happy.
Second place finisher number 24, Tony Elias. Thank you.
How do you not love that guy?
I love that guy. Are you kidding me? I mean, come on, man.
Good.
I think he's got a new nickname, Animal. I like it. I'm breaking like Animal.
I love it. I mean, you know, if you come to a MotoAmerica race, or if you don't follow him on Instagram, you're missing some stuff because this guy's loving living in America, as we've said. But he is an animal on the brakes, and he tried really hard. And let's hear what Josh Hayes has to say, Christy.
Josh, you made some risky moves. I know you really wanted that win. Tell us about your race.
I had a lot of fun. You know, it's fun being in the show a little bit, getting up there and tightening it up. I got to lead the race quite a while. You know, things were a little dicey there, and you know, Tony's trying things anywhere, everywhere, things that he can't get away with, but he just keeps trying it. So it's definitely added a lot of excitement to the race. Very interesting. The last 2 laps didn't go like I hoped they would, you know, and but I get another shot at him this afternoon, so just come back and watch race 2, see if I can do a little better.
Third place finisher, have to keep an eye on in race number 2, Josh Hayes.
Thanks, Christy.
There was a time when I used to say that about Josh Hayes, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is that I know Josh, he likes to fight, he does. And you know what? He respects the fact that Tony is gonna have a shot at him. He knows, because he tells me, he says, hey, you know, I know he's gonna have a shot. I know he's gonna try his best, and he's gonna do something. He ain't gonna just sit there. And, you know, we talk a lot about race strategies and stuff, and, you know, anybody can win one of those races where you just saw that race and how it played out.
Cameron Beaubier extends his championship lead now to 31 over Tony Elias. Josh Hayes just 3 back from him. And the big disappointment, I'm sure, the heartbreak for Roger Hayden, who now sits 2 race points back, 52 points adrift. Josh Herron in 5th spot with Claudio Corti, Bobby Fong, Danny Eslick, and Hayden Gillum rounding out your top 9. Jake Gagne, who wasn't able to attend, obviously still holds on to his 74 points. Taylor Knapp. Matthew Skoltz continues to score valuable points as he was able to finish in 7th spot today. Sheridan Marias back in the picture as well, scoring points. Anthony, Steve Rapp, and Corey Alexander, who was able to increase his points as he got 3 in 13th spot and on down through the rest of the field.
And that's a big deal for those guys in that Ducati, only because they haven't had a lot of dry time, and they've had some little niggling problems with that bike, and so the fact that Corey was able to get up there and get some points is great. I saw him running with Hayden Gillum, so it's not like he's just back there collecting points. He's racing for some of the guys that have made a difference in this championship, so good for those guys.